Fresh Kils.
How are you, sir?
I'm well, man. How are you?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. It's great to hear your voice. It's been too long.
Man, likewise, man. Welcome to the David Jonathan Perception.
It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Man, it really is refreshing to hear your voice, man. I'm really glad that you could actually do this for me today and be a guest on the show. I'm honored.
Nah, man, it's my pleasure. Well, I mean, what the hell else are we doing sitting around?
Nothing, man.
Can't go to church today.
Can't go to church. Can't watch paint dry.
Yeah, yeah, for real, for real.
It is real, real
Pajama
and
life.
filled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How you
So,
been living during this whole madness? You should be asking me the question. So I would imagine.
oh man, listen, it's a conversation, so it's whatever.
Yeah.
This is a conversation
You been all
between
right though?
friends. Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
good, man. I my mom ironically had hip replacement surgery right at the time that this all began with the whole nobody can see their loved ones issue.
Oh wow.
So she had the surgery for hip replacement, and like literally she just made the day, and I want to say up to almost the last hour for elective surgeries. Otherwise, she would be stuck still being in terrible pain and limping.
Oh man.
And then after she
I mean,
recovered,
that's
I couldn't even see her at the nursing home after she got out of the hospital.
yeah.
So it was pissing me off.
Oh man. Well, I mean, it's good news that she got in under the wire though, and that she's good. She's healthy and she's safe. Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing good. It's just you already know how it's been out there. So we're gonna get to that though because we definitely we'll
Sure.
talk about that. I want to talk about you.
Talk about it.
Talk about it.
Talk about it.
See, this is church right now, man. You
I
and me are gonna
mean,
have church today.
all right. I'm into it. Honestly, I haven't slept all night, so I'm feeling, there's reverie happening. Like I'm already in a dreamlike state. I may not make sense at some point. It's perfect.
That's fine, cause me either. I've been up all night doing edits, refining my YouTube page.
Nice. Yeah.
So let me get into a little bit of this bio that you have here, and it's beautifully it's
Okay.
beautifully articulated. I love it. From
Oh
behind
man.
from behind the boards to the stage, there's not a spot of ground Fresh Kill's prolific career hasn't touched. And it's not just hip hop. It's true. You'll see Saigon, Fabulous, Ali Ashid Muhammad, ATCQ, grace his resume. But you'll also find the likes of Ron Sex Smith and the Buena Vista Social Club. His prowess on the MPC has seen him share the stage with many hip hop legends: Nas, De La Soul. That's what I said, people. Nas, De La Soul, as well as the best of underground, winning over fans and beat battle competitions with his signature showmanship. The Toronto based Sound Battle Royale champion, Goldie Awards finalist, and multiple Juno nominations and high profile collaborations and performances, still has not reached his ceiling. With momentum and accolades growing each year, Fresh Kills is poised for a sound system takeover unlike any we've seen in a long time. You've been warned.
Yeah. I wonder who wrote that. Who wrote that? It's well done.
I
It's well
love it,
done.
man.
It's a fever pitch.
I mean, is it
You
really
know.
though?
It's a fever. It's from a fevered mind. It's a fevered pitch.
Listen, well, I want some of that flu. Give me that.
Yeah. Someone once told me that. I don't remember when. I went through like. There was a time when I went through training of all of these. Like I learned how to do an interview, and I learned how to write a bio, and I learned how to do a grant. There was like this formative moment during my, you know, come up that I learned all these things, and the bio has to have all these action words, and like, it has to have this like flat out kind of vibe to it at some point, or it's because you read so many bios. People read bios all the time if you're submitting for a festival, or
Right.
It's got to be, it's got to catch.
Right. True.
Yeah.
But yours is the great thing about yours is it is, besides it being well articulated and the action words do jump out at you, but it's not in a way that would perceive you to be conceited or anything. It's true. It's true, and I know this because I've had the pleasure of joining the stage with you as well as going on tour with you.
I appreciate you saying, man.
Man, listen.
I mean, where else other than a bio can like, that's where the shameless name dropping would have to happen, like where I'm not gonna tell you any of that stuff, for having beers on the road, but
yeah, likewise, unless it just happens to come up in conversation.
I mean, thank God for bios so that we have a chance to really just shamelessly name drop everything and talk about ourselves in the third person, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
it works, man.
Yeah.
Man, could you kind of tell me, like, what got you started, man? Like, what were you coming up in a household, in a musical household, or what really got you into being a producer and beat making?
I was a guitar player at first. Like, I was a long-haired hippie guitar player. I wanted to be Hendrix, or I wanted to learn how to shred back in high school, and I had a 4-track back when 4-tracks were a thing. And that was kind of the thing. Like, I had a 4-track, a microphone, and a guitar. And what's interesting about that is that really put me on the path to being an engineer and a producer first, because I wasn't a great shredder. I couldn't really shred in the way that I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wasn't Slash. I wanted to be Slash, but but that kind of set me on the path towards, like, that engineering and beat making came soon after that. And actually, when I went to university, I came up in Halifax. Like, I grew up in Toronto, but I came up kind of in Halifax. When I went out there, it was this really crazy scene. I really wasn't listening to hip hop music, to be honest. Like I said, I was a rock kid, and I just kind of got caught up in it, man. It was this wild thing, and the production thing kind of came a little bit like after everything, and it was also just like building with your homies, finding like-minded people, and being like, well, what do we need here? Like, no one knows how to make records. Okay, let's figure out how to make records. And then just kind of piecing it together. What do we need? We need this. Okay, we need this. What do we need? And yeah, that kind of set me off. I mean, really, I should say though that Halifax at the time was a really unbelievable kind of fertile nesting ground for so much crazy shit. I can swear, right, on this?
Oh yeah, you totally can.
Fuck yeah. Okay. I was on a feed yesterday, and I swore, and I got I wasn't allowed to swear on it, but I did anyway. But anyway, Halifax at that time was crazy. So Scratch Bastid was coming up. Classified, for those who know or don't know, 6'2" was an early mentor. Buck 65, Josh Martinez, DJ Moves, who went on to produce for Len. Like, he produced the Steal My Sunshine record.
Oh yeah, DJ Moves. Yep, that's true.
All of that stuff was happening around us when we were coming up out there, and it was just exciting. Like, it was people doing different shit, and unapologetically doing it, and it was just, I don't know how to describe it. There was like an energy about it,
the funny thing about Halifax, and this is, I guess, how the way that we're also connected is, my grandfather used to lay train tracks in the U.S., but he always wanted to go to Canada, to different places, and so, he would always talk about Halifax. He would always talk about Saskatchewan.
Yo,
And
Saskatoon is popping
yo, it really is though. It really
for
is.
real, for real. Yeah,
And I had a chance to go there, and I had a chance to go to Nova Scotia, and it was just I had a ball. I had a fun time, man.
yeah, 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 for real.
Canada's really
It
like a
does do
second
that.
home for me.
I mean, it's funny because like Buffalo, I don't. I used to think of Buffalo when I was a kid because that's where you grew up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to think of Buffalo as this big American city. Like in my head, that's what it was. It was like this, oh my, Buffalo Bills, and like it was just,
Right.
it was this big American city. And then, meanwhile, we're the big city. Toronto's the big city. I didn't know
Oh
that.
man. Absolutely.
But it's also like not different. I don't really feel that disparate. Like when there's something about border towns. Buffalo's a border town. I don't think people think of it that way either.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something about border towns. Like Detroit is a border town.
Yep.
So people don't think, for example, like Dilla was such a huge influence on Toronto in particular.
Oh my God.
And it's because Detroit and Windsor, they're like, they're two sides of the same coin, and it's a border town with Canada, and so there was a lot of connections there. And it's similar to Buffalo. I don't think people think about Buffalo as a border town in the sense of like it's not really that different. It's not really that different from Canada at all.
Yeah,
in temperament either. Just I don't know.
You're right. I mean, because Buffalo's considered to be the city of good neighbors, and that's the motto. But it's so funny because every time I go to Canada, I mean, any part of Canada I've ever been to, from here to British Columbia, I'm thinking. I mean, it's just like the people are so kind. I've never had a problem with anybody in Canada at any given time, even if they were drunk. They're still the nicest drunk people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's fun. Yeah.
I really got into Canada because of wrestling. Actually, I was a wrestling WWF, fanatic.
It was so huge here. Yeah, and actually that's funny too because you're absolutely right. Wrestle, especially WWE, WWF.
Yeah.
It was so Canadian at times. I mean, there was like the Mountie was a character. Like there were so many Canadian. Obviously, the Hart family, Hart Foundation.
Yeah, man. Oh God.
Yeah, a lot of its roots are in Canada for sure.
Canada for let me see the Mountie, the Bret Hart, Edge and Christian.
Yep.
Chris Jericho.
Is he Canadian? No way.
Yeah, he's Canadian, bro.
No way.
Yeah, man.
I was in where the hell was I? I was in North Virginia, and he had performed the night before we performed that night.
Mm-hmm.
In North Virginia, and I'd never been there, and it was kind of a scary place, man. It freaked me out, and I didn't really know why I was freaked out. And then I was touring with Megaran at the time, and Megaran said this to me when we walked in. Like, I don't think he said it to me when he walked in. When we got into the club, he literally said to me, he said, "Stay close to me." At one point, and at the time, it took that for it to click, because he wasn't joking.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "We are in the middle of nowhere. This is not a safe space for me." And he's like, said it to me. He's like, "Stay close to me tonight." I was like, "Okay," and I was like, "What the fuck?" And that was it. It clicked. I was like, "This is why I feel sketchy here."
Now, where was that? You said Virginia?
It was North Virginia. It was this club called, oh man, it had some silly name. The whole reason I'm remembering that story is because Chris Jericho's band had played the night before. And so
Fozzy.
For some reason, I immediately just thought Chris Jericho was like the furthest thing from Canadian. Like, why would he be playing this place? Like, why would you be here? Why are we here? Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, his band is killer, man. Fozzy. They're like one of my favorite rock and roll bands.
No shit.
Have you listened to any of his music?
No, of course not. No,
oh my!
I
God, dude!
associate him with that. I associate him with that experience in that club.
You have to listen to his music, man. He has
Yeah,
he
I
has a
guess I
band
do.
called Fozzy, Fozzy,
Okay.
and he's the lead singer. And when I say, like, when I first heard that Chris Jericho had a rock band, I'm like, okay, like, sure you do, buddy. Like,
Sure.
sure you do. But
I mean, that's pretty high praise from you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have a lot of faith in your taste. You know, as
thank you,
as highbrow a musician as you are.
thank you, man.
So it's like, you know what I mean? But like, that's kind of crazy to me. I'm like, holy I obviously, and also, you know what? This is the second time, because I honestly, I wasn't a big RZA fan for a long time, and I wrote him off. And last night really, you know, made me a believer in all
Oh,
of that
dude,
too. And I just, but
RZA. Oh my God, like,
this is my time now. This is my redemptions. These are my, like, I've got to come off of these ridiculous opinions that I have or feelings that I have about this stuff. I gotta listen to Chris Jericho's band.
dude,
I gotta
listen.
appreciate RZA.
If you listen to Chris Jericho's band, I guarantee that you're gonna find something on the newest album that you're gonna want to sample. I promise. I'm serious. I bet you'll use it in one of your sets one of these days.
I'm a pretty cheap date for that stuff, but you're probably right.
Because this,
Like, I'll sample anything, you know.
I've listened.
But
I've
yeah,
listened to a whole
down.
Fozzy album without even actually moving to the next track. So,
unironically, yeah.
so you would be in for a treat, man. So like, now in RZA, do you know about RZA's meditation little thing he came out with?
Yeah, and it's crazy and awesome and, like, ridiculous at the same time. I mean, it's all of these things at once.
It's funny though because he's been very into the whole, ever since, I mean, we could go all the way back to 36 Chambers if you want to talk about
yeah.
He's always been the odd guy that even when the stuff he rapped about with Wu-Tang, it was like, oh, that's interesting. Why is he talking about that? And everybody else is talking about, I mean, you had him, and then the stark contrast is Old Dirty Bastard.
Yeah.
Shimmy, shimmy, y'all, shimmy.
The yin to the yang, exactly.
So,
yeah.
I mean, RZA, I can see why you might have slept on RZA, but RZA is on being a producer as well as being a lyricist is just incredible to me.
You know what's interesting? And I've had this conversation with a few different people, and I'd be interested to hear what you'd say about it. Is I think there's the thing about music, especially, is that, and this is the thing, you know, when Nina Simone says in that interview, she's like, you know, what's the job of an artist is to reflect the time that they live in and stuff. The best art does that. The art that survives does that. And it's so interesting to have talks about, because the music is so intrinsically connected to a specific moment in history, in a specific, you know, like a specific borough, a specific, you know, a very specific era, like, and not even a specific decade. Like, we're talking about hella specific, like a specific 5-year period, you know, or, and that the music takes on these different things. So, like, I got into an argument, for example, with a friend, I should say discussion, but argument about Yellow Wolf, because I was, like, never a really big Yellow Wolf fan, but I also I wasn't around when you know, the trunk pop music dropped.
Right.
So I didn't understand. There was a cultural significance to that record dropping that I completely missed. And again, being a rock kid growing up, just to get back to your question about me coming up, is I had to retroactively discover this stuff. So it didn't have those intrinsic. The clothing wasn't connected to the video, wasn't connected to the comics, wasn't connected to the. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
There's a totality of it. And last night watching Premiere and RZA battle, you kind of start. That's one of those experiences where you get a closer understanding of those relationships, because it's like we're talking about a specific era in history that has meaning.
Right.
You know what I mean? For different things, and that's super. It's just there's a lot of depth to that. You know?
I would say I agree with you. I'm definitely like. I like so many different styles of music, but so for me to like loving hip hop for me is an understatement. There's so many
Mhm.
different between underground and mainstream that I really take to. And not everybody that puts stuff out that I like, but I'm still having a hard time with trap music. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
not all of it, because I've heard some good trap where it's actually people are being lyrical. Like
Yeah.
I actually like is it what is it, Little Baby or the Baby? I can't remember
The
which.
baby. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
know, where I first saw the Baby's stuff is actually ironically back in 2015. I went to South by Southwest. Matter of fact, we that was that tour we went on, the Southern Hashtags tour,
Mhm. Mm.
and we were on Sixth Avenue in Texas, and this dude comes down the street with his whole entourage. Matter of fact, you were at the, I don't know if you were performing at the Canada Room,
Okay.
or do you remember the Canada Room on Sixth? They had like all Canada artists there.
I do remember it. Yep.
And I forget, it was this long guy. It's this dark skinned guy with dreads that was like he's like a major Canadian rapper too, and he's like a legend.
Okay.
I can't remember his name; it's slipping me. But I went outside just to take a breather because it was hot in there, and here
Right.
comes this dude down the street with this whole entourage with these baby signs with they're like cartoon baby signs, and come to find
And,
out it was the baby.
is that right?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
I didn't know
That's
he
really
would have
funny.
been as big as he got. You know.
I had this. I had the same experience at South by with Danny Brown,
Mm.
who, and it was my first time there. So I don't even know how long ago that was now, like 8 or 9 years ago or something. And he was he was playing on the top floor of the convention center to an empty room, and he was dressed in like these tight dress pants and a dress shirt, and he was spitting rape raps over like just grimy, you know, New York shit. And I was like, what? And we left. We walked. We were like, fuck this, like whatever. And then okay, you know,
That is
all right,
hilarious.
do your thing.
So when was your first time at South by?
I'm trying to remember, man. It was like it was like 10 years ago. Because my first time was with More or Less, and we put out our EP in '09, so it would have had to have been 2010,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And that was a crazy Canadian showcase. We played with it was Classified, Shad, us, Keys and Crates, and they were
Oh
doing
yeah.
Keys and Crates at that show. They were doing covers. They were like doing. It was like they were doing hip hop tracks and they were covering them. It was like a. I don't even know. It was like a bar band. It was totally different from what they are now.
Yeah.
Um,
I like Keys and Craze, man. I've been following them a long time.
yeah, man, they're fucking ill. Um, Super proud of those guys.
Are you a
Yeah, South by is a wild scene.
oh, got it. Yeah, absolutely. South by was another reason I got into Nicolay.
Mhm. Mhm.
With foreign exchange.
Oh man, I mean, I'm a huge foreign exchange fan. Everybody keeps telling. That's what people tell me. Like, your beats sound like foreign exchange. I'm like, fuck. All right,
Trying to live up to
I'll
that,
take it.
right?
I'll fucking take it.
You know what's funny is Nicolay is a really nice guy too. I reached out to him about 6 years ago
Yeah.
and asked him, "Hey man, do you have a drummer?" And
Yeah.
I didn't think he would reply. I was just kind of doing it for shits and giggles. But next thing I know, in less than a whole day, like maybe like 20 hours later, he replied to me and said that he liked my video. I had left a link to a video, says, "I like your video, man. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, right now I do have a drummer, but we'll stay in contact." And I was like, "What?" Nicolay wants to stay in contact with me,
Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
so that's pretty cool. And then he came out with the whole City Lights series,
Mhm.
and
I I'm not as familiar with his stuff, to be honest.
Oh, okay, yeah. He has a lot of. I mean, he likes to bend time. Like he likes to do stuff like he's just kind of doing a beat regular in like 4/4, and then all of a sudden he'll change it, and he'll put the accents in different places, and you'll be confused for a second, but it's
Yeah,
playing with your mind, the perception of your mind. But
yeah.
I love that stuff. I have to ask you, was anybody in your family musically inclined besides yourself?
My dad, my dad was kind of like, um, yeah, my dad was a piano player, and he played in clubs for a short time,
Mm-hmm.
and and it, you know but he left it quick because he was just like, this isn't going to be, I'm not going to be able to make any money. Like and his family, like, I don't know. My dad's dad, I never met my dad's dad.
Mm-hmm.
He died before I knew him. I got old enough to know him, but my dad's dad was kind of a tough nut, I guess, and so my dad kind of, like, after a while, was my dad and his dad didn't like each other. Let's put it to put it mildly.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad was kind of like obsessed with like, I don't want to say obsessed, but like really wanted to show him up, and be like, I'm going to be way more successful than you can ever dream, and I'm going to do it my own way. And so playing the piano wasn't going to give him that, because that was my dad's mission, was to like show his dad who's boss.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but and then my mom was told at a young age that she couldn't sing. I mean, my mom was my mom escaped Hungary with her mom in '56
Wow.
when the Russians rolled the tanks into Budapest, and so she was told at a young age. But interestingly enough, my grandmother was an aspiring opera singer who, like so many people around that time in history, basically had to throw their lives just got thrown into the war. And so like between my grandmother, wanting to, like, training to be an opera singer, 2 generations ago, and then my dad kind of quitting piano at a certain point, there's a bit of there's some traces.
Mm-hmm.
But and I think the other thing too is that when it came to my folks and my dad was like, my dad just, how you just don't want to be your dad, like, so my dad was like, I'm not gonna be like my dad was to me. I'm gonna support my son doing whatever the fuck he wants to do,
Right.
and fuck it, because what the fuck. And so that's how you get me, like, mashing on. Could you imagine the conversation where it's like, Dad, I think I know what I want to do with my life, and he's like, okay, son, tell me. And I'm like, I'm gonna play these pads. I'm gonna hit on this little MPC machine. Like, could you imagine?
You're stupid, kid.
Just
Go
how
to
confused
get a
and
job.
disappointed you'd be.
Get a real job.
So ridiculous. Oh man.
Yo, that's how it was with me with drums. Like,
Yeah.
I got to I was a senior in high school, and I knew I wanted to be a professional drummer, but I didn't know how. Like like I knew how to play, but I didn't know how to get there exactly. But I knew it was going to
Right.
include something about starving and probably sleeping in a car at some point. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but everybody kind of made me believe that I was gonna. It would no, you're gonna be a complete, absolute failure at it, and blah blah blah. And so I started to go to school first for business, and tried to also like double major in law. And I was there for literally about 2 semesters, and I dropped
Mm-hmm.
out of college. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's another reason why I found myself so easily to relate to Kanye West's college dropout album, because
Yeah.
I was actually doing that, and I had got an opportunity at the time to play for a touring band, and I was working at Guitar Center as a door guy, like literally just taking people's stamps in when they would bring in instruments or leave the building.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then once the guy this guy just heard me tapping at the keyboard at the front of the entrance, and starts asking me all these questions about me playing drums. Then we go to the drum room, then I play, and the next thing you know, my life changes. So
Hmm.
that's how it started. But I had so many people like, no, you can't do that. You're gonna be a failure. And I mean, it came with its own hardships, but I'm still here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Somehow I'm still here. I don't understand it. Like, I really don't get it. And every time I get a cool opportunity now, I'm like, holy shit, because because you know how that goes too. Is a lot of the time you're check to check, and so somehow you'll be in these situations where like money will somehow find you, like
Yeah.
after it's like miracle shit too. It's like it doesn't even make sense. Like I'd be down and out in like the final 10 days of a month, being like I don't know how the hell this is gonna happen.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, like 3 people hit. I sell 3 beats in a day, and I'm like, oh shit, just out of the blue,
Out of
like
clear blue
just
sky, bro. It's crazy.
no explanation, shit, like so. And it's funny, and that is a real. That's a story that's common amongst people that I talk to that are the musicians like this, amongst my peers and everything. It's like, and that's probably as much bad planning and all that, as it is like it's not a miracle. It's just but yeah, but somehow, and I don't know. I don't know what that's a factor of a lot of things. I'd like to think that it's a factor of things getting better, despite how we want to feel about things. The times that we live in. That the fact that I could do, or that you or I, or anyone could do this stuff in a sustainable way.
Right.
And given the current climate, you would think it would be impossible. Like it does seem like a miracle or something, but I'd like to think, and I do think I get this from my dad, because my dad's an eternal optimist.
Mm-hmm.
That it tends to make me think. I'm not an optimist, but my dad is. But it tends to make me feel like, or it's one of the things that would convince me that things are getting better. That. So I don't know. I mean, and it is. All signs point to it's getting worse. Like like the music industry it's always a shit show. But holy, it's like more of a shit show.
It's definitely getting there even worse nowadays. Like
Yeah.
I don't even like.
I mean,
Go ahead.
No. I stopped. I mean, I literally. I don't know how. I didn't foresee anything. I stopped being on the road like last spring, so a year ago, was my last tour. I decided I was going to get off the road. I was going to, try to get my studio business back up and running, and try to look at the next step, because I turned 40 last September, and I spent the better part of the last 10 years on the road, and I'm like, I can't do this forever.
Right.
And I'm not banking. I'm not banking to the point of like, like it's sustainable. It's great. I love it. But I'm 40 now, and in my head, I'm going, I've got to like develop some other kind of things. I've got to develop some other assets, or whether that's educating myself, building infrastructure, getting the business back and running. Who knows? Just I knew I needed to do that. But I mean, could you imagine, like, at this point last year, I was 5 months into booking a European tour. I mean,
Wow.
If I was that, it would have been a shit show. And last year was a shit show too. So fuck. What do I know? But
listen, I totally understand that, because I mean I'm approaching. I don't know. I'm finding new ways to reinvent myself. Like this podcast show is something I kind of been working on, but I still didn't have all the necessary things I needed to do it. I knew that there was a voice out of this area And I felt like the number of people I've come into contact with that I should be able to do a decent podcast and maybe get some sponsorships behind me to even keep expanding. But that's in addition to these gigs that come out of nowhere. Like I just came back from Colombia doing a 5 city tour there for the Americano Colombo Exchange Program for musical and cultural arts,
Wow,
and that was what an experience.
it's
And
crazy.
and then before that, I was in Iceland and Denmark, um,
What?
and that was all in the same month. And so there were some things up on the horizon before this whole COVID-19 thing hit, but because I'm sure that's canceled anybody's gigs, because I was telling my
Oh, I mean, yeah, Armageddon.
yeah, I was telling my friends, I said, I said this is the best time to probably reach out to some artists, to prepare for when things do get restarted because everybody's on the same playing field right now. Like they're no better than me, and I'm no better than them at the moment because they're all sitting at home trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm. You know, yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about some of this stuff because these these grand homogenizing moments
Hmm.
are, you know, they freak me out. They really do freak me out because, like, hmm, what's a good example? Like, here's an example of it. You would say, one might say, well, the current state of rap is atrocious, right? But, and that may or may not be true. Who knows? But I think you could also say at the same point, what's also equally true is that rap music is also like, there's so much incredible rap music going on. There's
Right.
so much incredible hip hop music happening. Those two things are entirely true at the same time. And so, and part of that is the grand homogenizing of things, right? Like you look at these grand leveling of the playing fields. Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes a lot of good stuff gets lost. A lot of talented people fall, and like, I don't know. There's so many examples. I mean, the it's like this path that you and I have chosen. It's like it's littered with corpses.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, it's just like it's like climbing Mount Everest. It's like, once you start getting high enough, or you're hiking long enough, there's frozen dead bodies on the left and right. It's like
And there's
that's
less oxygen. There's less
yeah,
oxygen the higher you go.
exactly, yeah. And there's a few of those guys who and girls who have like maintained. They've gone through the valley of darkness and come up on the other side. But like, and you can count those on one hand. But I feel like those moments where everyone kind of gets taken down. It's kind of like a Mad Max moment, and the Mad Max movie. What happens? What happens in Mad Max movies? Well, the guys with the machetes and machine guns win. You know, not the you know I don't think, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I
I
know
know
what
what
you're
you mean.
saying, but I don't necessarily believe it gives everyone else a chance. I think that all of a sudden my whole existence in life got more cluttered. Like, I don't know if it's a good time to put out music. I think is it? I
No,
don't know.
I see. I don't think so.
Probably not.
Because I'm working on an album. I've been working on my debut album as a solo artist, and it's called 400. And the tone of the album is based off of the 400-year anniversary of the transatlantic slave trade, and
Mm.
and all the music that came from that, all your blues, all your jazz, gospel, you
Mm-hmm.
know, all these different forms that kind of came from struggle and pain music,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the album is so awesome and it's kind of deep and almost kind of very theatrical. And I felt like I would be doing myself a disservice because I was ready to put it out. This is what I was supposed to put it out in May, But
Yeah.
I don't want to do that now because I feel like it's going to be overshadowed by everything that's going on right now, and then it
Yeah.
would have a poor showing when I end up getting it on all the platforms. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting on it for right now, but in the same process as sitting on it, I've been trying to collaborate with as many of my friends across the U.S. and overseas to do other stuff, just so once I do release it, then I already got something else coming right behind that that's already different. So I could just kind of be hitting people in the face, like, boom, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Dropping these singles and, you know,
Yeah. The follow up is almost more important in some ways too.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how it's timed. I mean, I could tell this story, but I put out so Premrock and I put out our first record,
Oh yeah, I know. That
and
was awesome, man.
well, it's a cool record, but we put it out. This is like, so I thought there
Shout
was
out
a
to Primrock.
tsunami. Much fucking love to that dude. He's surviving in Harlem right now. I'm worried about all my New York homies, man, and they're at Ground Zero. But when we put out our first record, our publicist fucked us into delaying the release so that he had lead time, which made our release the day the Tribe Called Quest put out their record. That's number one. Now, okay, they're not the same fans. We don't have the same fans, but like in terms of a like global hip hop like album release event, this the second coming of Tribe Called Quest, that was a big moment. That's an overshadowing, of course.
Right.
And then it was the same week Trump got elected within the same week. So, which was a complete tsunami of online like just garbage and trash and sorrow and woe and just craziness. And literally, and we were on the road. We were in Europe when it dropped. So
Wow.
and we put all of our money in it. We had videos. We had a publicist. We'd done artwork. We got mastered. We were on a label. We were touring Europe. And dude, I'm telling you, it's like it never fucking happened, man. That record got blotted out like the fucking sun on an eclipse, man. It was like, I don't even know how to describe it to you. We were inconsolable about it. Like we just wouldn't talk about it for months. We didn't talk about it because it was like it never happened. So I can't even imagine, after having gone through that, I can't even imagine what it would be like to put a record out now.
Yeah. Oh no,
You know?
it would totally not get hurt. You would think that with people being home more right now that it would give them a
Yeah.
chance to listen to some stuff, but that's only going to be like a 1 or 2%, population of people, and those people have to already kind of be a fan of going to dig and find stuff as valuable as like a record like that. So
I mean, yeah, it's also just, I mean, your market just got flooded. That's sort of my point, is like the market just got fucking like just. I mean, how many live streams are happening every second of every minute of every day?
Dude, there's people doing live streams, and I'm like, yo, you probably shouldn't do live streams.
I mean, of course, yeah.
You got Debbie Sue.
Their response to us is, well, what the hell else am I supposed to do? And I don't have a great answer for them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm not going to tune in, but I'm also just like, I don't blame anybody, but like, fuck.
You got little Debbie Sue trying to do a recipe show, and she can't really cook, but she gonna do it because I want to show y'all what I'm making. I seen this lady online making chicken noodle soup out of a can, might I add, and grilled cheese sandwiches.
And it's like it's a how-to. Wow.
I'm like, what's happening right now?
It's a funny thing too, because I was very possessed of this early, that if everyone was doing it, I would automatically not want to do it. It's why I'm not a DJ, and it's why I'm not an MC, because everyone that I knew and I met coming up were one of those things, and most of them were terrible. It was like cats trying to call themselves DJs. And I was like, I don't really, and then and here's Scratch Bass over here. I'm like, well, I don't want to be this guy. I want to be this guy, but I'm not going to be that guy. So I'm not going to do this. Fuck this. Everyone's trying to be DJ. Fuck it. Everybody wants to rap. I had a ton of, well, I mean, for lack of a better term, white friends of mine who would be way more awkward than me. Like think of, if I rapped, it would be awful. I know that, but I have friends that would be way more awful than me, and that were way more awful than I would have ever been. And I was like, I don't want to be those guys either.
Right.
And so, but the thing is, if you follow that through till now, when we're in this, if you think about it, we're in this like extremist culture right now. Like everything is being done, right? Like everything is getting conceived and being done, and it, there's nothing left to not do. I guess I'm not putting that right, but it resulted in a really hilarious conversation I had with my dad one time, where my dad at Thanksgiving or whatever the fuck it was, asked me how things were going and what my plans were for the year. And I didn't have a fucking answer, and I kind of resented the question. I was like, fuck this. Thanksgiving, it's like, oh, how's the drumming thing going? It's like you get these fucking...
Right.
How's the finger drumming going? Like, what are the ridiculous questions I would get. And so he said, well, what are your plans for this year? And I was like, in my head, I was like, fuck you. But what I said was, I made some shit up. I was like, yeah, well, I'm trying to put together a plan to jump out of a plane and play the MPC as I'm free falling. And I just said it to like shut him up.
Right.
And then he looked at me and he was like, that's actually a really good idea. That's great. You should do that. And I was like flabbergasted. But at the same time, I mean, what's left? Like, what's fucking left? I don't know. Every time I'm so far behind all of it. Like, like the drum packs, I was way behind on that. I had drum packs ready. I didn't put them out in time. I have a web series about flipping records.
Nice.
Before the fucking Rhythm Roulette blew up, I was doing it. I didn't put it out. I got beat to the punch there. It's put out. I don't want to do it anymore. And now it's being done.
Right.
It's not fun. So, I don't know.
It's
That's
hard being the first too, and like
rope.
putting your flag on that hill,
I mean, that's kind of what, I don't know. I mean, that's what I wanted, I think, more than, and maybe this is maybe a giant failing of mine, is I think I wanted that more than I wanted, I may have wanted that at a time more than I really cared about making great music, which is, I may be embarrassed to someone admit that to you, but I think there's some truth to that, like, because I think about it now and I'm like, the music doesn't get me. Like, I don't get fired up about being alone in my apartment working on my record. That never got me excited at all. I always wanted to do it with other people. Yes.
Pause.
You know what I'm saying, though? Like, it's collaborative, right?
Right.
And this, like, what's going to motivate you to sit in your bedroom or whatever, or your studio by yourself and just work on an album for hundreds of hours, and then have the fucking like gall to be like, look at me. Like, I don't have that in me anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't have that. I don't care.
Yeah.
Even my set is like that. I mean, you've seen it. My set is very like, what's the word? It's like,
I mean, I like your set,
it's
by
like
the way.
high. Yeah, my set's great, but my set is like low. My set is high calorie fructose corn syrup. It's not. There's not a lot of. It's really fun. The first time you see it, but like, I don't know. I'm now being self-deprecating, but
yeah. See, here's the thing, and I mean,
empty calories.
I know that feeling because like, coming from the opinion that that we both are beat makers and I mean we both produce. So the only thing is I'm not as efficient on the MPC as you are, but you do a show, right? And you do your routine, and it's like, okay, cool. And then once you've done that routine 60,000 times, and maybe with
Sure.
slight differences, then I think it's easy to feel almost empty, almost as if you're just doing it out of a task, and then
I
actually
mean,
loving it.
yeah, they say the curse of success is repetition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, McDonald's, they've sold 400 billion trillion burgers, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've made the same burger that many times because it was successful. And then if you have a hit song, the curse is you have to play it every night that you perform. You have to
Mm-hmm.
finish your fucking set with it every night. And there's a curse to that. But and I get that too. There's also a thing, I don't know, with Andre 3000 with Rick Rubin. Came out recently, and you really should listen to it. But I was actually weeping at different times. Well, there's one specific time that he brought me to tears. The question was, what do you right now? Like, what's your process like right now? Like, what are you into? What are you working on? What's going on in your creative world? And he was just like, he kind of goes into it. He talks about how he's like, I tinker, I tinker with things, but I just don't. It's not coming, and I I don't know where to look for it, and it's like it doesn't feel good, and then he starts talking about how he's like, and obviously I can't compare myself to him in the sense of, in the measure of his successes or his hit records or the esteem that the culture has for him, but he does say at one point he's like it's hard. It's like I'm living in my own shadow, and it's really hard to like get out from under it because there's expectations and all these other things. It's like Premack and I hit the road with a new record every year for like 3 straight years, right? But every time we got to a city, no one gave a shit about the record, but the routine. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I never really like got frustrated. That didn't frustrate me at the time. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, "Fuck you, kid." Like, I want to do it. I don't have disdain for my fans. I don't have enough fans to have disdain for them. But that really hit home for me because I was like, because I can't top the Transformers routine in my mind. And the records that the records that come out of this like depressive old state that I'm currently in, it's not really like, they're not really compelling, I don't think. I could be wrong. I may be wrong, and probably I'm wrong, but I'm not excited about them. Irrespective of how good they are, I'm not excited about them. They don't get me up in the morning,
Right. And the thing about it is, and and this might just be for you, like, because I could tell you what's worked for me. Um, once you've done something, you know, once you've made a pie, an apple pie, one time, you've made it, and you make it a dozen times after that, it's going to be the same apple pie. Um, but you try to find different ways to make that pie more interesting or taste more good. Maybe you put some whipped cream on it. Maybe you throw some strawberries on top of the apple pie with the whipped cream. It's like finding a way to be inventive again instead of eating the same recipe for apple pie every time. So
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I hear
that's
you.
that's where I'm at because you know everybody knew me first as a producer before they knew me as a drummer.
Right.
And what discouraged me from continuing to be and I'm still a producer. That hasn't left me. It's just that I realized that at the time, we're going back to high school years. When I'm making beats off of like Fruity Loops 2.
Yeah,
But I was
yeah.
using Fruity Loops in a different way. I wasn't using none of the stock sounds. I was making my own samples from like Audacity as a means to chop up stuff. And you know, after a while, even though my beats were good, and they were very hip hop, and they told stories. People, the times were changing with the music, but I was still kind of hip hop. So
Mhm.
how do I
Yeah.
compete with that when this style of music is still cool, and I still love doing it that way, but the rest of the world is moving on, and as even though I'm trying to be as newly creative as possible and trying to, I don't want to follow a trend because I want to be me, but at the
Yeah.
same time I want to make money too. And it was starting to become a stale piece of apple pie. So at one point I just kind of took, well, I think that the caveat was that my computer crashed, and I lost something like 300 beats, bro. Like
I
I
it's
was
awful.
mortified.
It's just that happened to me in '99, and I cried. I
Yeah,
wept.
crowd. Yeah, I know.
I literally wept.
Dude, I was so hurt. I felt like somebody I've known as a long time as a friend slapped me in the face or something, like, and didn't tell me why and just left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you just want to quit. Like that shit makes me want to quit, man. When that happens.
And when that happened, it was like, oh my goodness. And I mean, it was like some of my best stuff. I mean, I
Yeah.
like when
Yeah.
Kanye West says, lock yourself in a room doing 5 beats
Mhm.
a day for 3 summers. Like,
Yeah.
I understood what that meant. Like, but then after that happened, it was like, you know what? Who cares? Who cares anyway? And I started concentrating more on drumming, and getting back into looking at my books and developing my technique. And then eventually the itch came again to start making beats again. So I found myself a new computer off of Craigslist, and and
Yeah.
I slowly began to get back into it, and even had modified my style so I could catch up with the times. And I was liking the stuff I was putting out. And then guess what? My computer crashed again.
Dude,
and uh,
come on,
and
man.
this time I lost like 200 something beats. So now you're talking about 500 beats. And I'm not saying any of them was going to catch and hit, but I mean, I had some pretty good stuff in there, some really good samples I was proud of. And after that,
That's heartbreaking, dude. That's
it is.
that's
It's like a
that's
death.
crippling.
It's like somebody died.
It is a death. It's a death for sure. It is. Yeah.
And so after
There's no
that,
other way to describe it.
after that happened, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to just concentrate more on being a producer in terms of live music instead. So
Mhm.
I was going to a bigger studio, and spending money just to do all of this live music producing. And I became so immersed in that and natural sounds that it made me a lot more happier. And I would do a track every now and then, and I would just back it up on 100 different thumb drives and 1 terabyte
Yeah.
size hard drives. But I kind of changed my expectations so I wouldn't be so hurt if it happened again. So um,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know that feeling, so I know you know. But
I mean, I'm an obsessive data manager. I'm like a really it's weird, dude.
like at one point, I was buying so many hard drives. It was like
Yeah.
an obsession.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I could probably build a house, a dog house out of hard drives. It's
And what's funny is they probably all still work, but it's that part of your mind that says, no, one of these days, one of these are going to go and I'm going to be sad again. And I don't want to feel that feeling again.
well, you gotta double each one. That's the thing. So you gotta mirror them all. But the funny thing about that is that the first time it happened, I wept, and then I got super obsessive about it. But you made a really interesting distinction, which I think is the key to like I wanted to do things my way, and I wanted to make these things, and the world has moved on, but I wanted to stay doing what I was doing, but I wanted to make money too. The
Right.
money is the real fucked up thing, as we all know. But when it comes to the data management thing, is I got obsessed about data management. It makes me money. Like, and people think I'm crazy, but like, I literally get a phone call probably. It's as often as once a week. It is as little as once a month, but it's never less than once a month. I get a phone call or an email asking me for an acapella from a session that I did 10 fucking years ago. I'm telling you, man. And people think I'm crazy, but literally for me, there was a period where I was doing 2 or 3 sessions a day for like 5 years, 7 years, 7 years straight.
Jeez.
So like think about it, you know, like, so people are hitting me up for acapellas, and I'm you know, I'm not charging a lot of money, but like, it adds up. It fucking adds up.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and it adds up in a way that's enough to keep you going.
I mean, you know, I collect pennies until I can pay my rent. That's what it is. I'm like, it's chump changing. That's what I'm doing. I was always a volume guy, because volume, what I realized was volume begat more volume, right? Like, gigs beget more gigs in a sense. Like, if you have, it doesn't even matter if you have somebody in your studio, even if it's a bad session and you fuck it up and it sounds like shit, that session is still more likely to get you another session than never having done it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In the same way that when you're on the road, the funny thing about the road is that no one ever comes to you with no one ever slips a piece of paper across the table to you with an incredible deal that's all in your favor. You know, like, a tour on paper looks terrible.
Absolutely.
Because if you get door splits all over the fucking place.
Oh God, I hate those.
You've got your startup money. You're losing money at the gate. There's nothing guaranteed for merch, right? It's like, it's all fucking speculative. I mean, it's a terrible business plan. It sucks. It's terrible. But the funny thing is that there's so much that's not on that piece of paper. Like, there's so much, you could write the numbers out, but there's so much that's not on there. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether it's just experiences, you know, whether it's just having a good time stuff. Yo, you know how many rappers you know how many people I've sold beats to on the road? Just my network of rappers that want beats. Like, I can't even know. It's an immeasurable amount of money at this point. But there's so many things about the road that you don't see on paper. There's so many things about some of the work that you don't see unless you do it over time. So I've always been a volume guy, because I've always believed in volume over, like, quantity over quality. And I probably have paid for that on the other end of things, but I'm still alive, and my studio still runs. Yes, but the point about the money and the art, that's where I was coming back to, is that you pay for it on the other end. Like, I'm a volume guy when it comes to sessions and work, but the artistic side of it, you know, wanes. And then there's also the identity crisis of, well, am I a business person or am I an artist? You know, and it's like, what hat am I wearing today? And like, oh fuck, what side of my personality am I gonna, you know?
And you know what,
like, man?
You know, I with that kind of because that could be a stressor for sure. I'm gonna funny how I'm gonna bring this back up, but Chris Jericho, right?
Wow.
What I really admire about wrestling is that if your act is even halfway good to get over with a crowd at any level, even if it is a live show, and you can almost tell a story with that character, that people will, they'll eventually get sick of it. But with Chris Jericho, I mean, he's been in the business for almost 30 years.
Yeah, he's on top of this new league apparently.
Yeah, and now he's doing the new wrestling thing with AEW, and he's reinvented himself again. And it's like, first when he first came, he was Lionheart Chris Jericho. As a matter of fact, he used to be called Lionheart. Then the second installment in his career, like a decade after he did like all the Mexico tours, it got stale, and Then he became a different personality when he was in WCW, but he was still Chris Jericho. Then he got to WWE and became a whole different personality, and now he's in AEW, and he's like this kind of Judas Priest looking character now, but it's still another level up of Chris Jericho. So for you, and people like you and me, like reinventing ourselves is going to be the key to our sustainabilities. Because yes, we need to pay our rent, that's for sure. But there's a way. We got to find out what the formula is, but it's a way to keep ourselves still looking like we're the it factors, because we really are. And the stuff that the other generation is doing now, some of it's cool, but they don't have that drive and heart like we did, and like we still do. And we've seen so much of the BS in the industry on both sides that it's enough to make you be like, you know what? I'm at 40, and maybe it's time for me to finally get a 9 to 5 job, or where do I start? Because it's almost like being
Oh
reborn.
yeah.
But in that mediocrity, we're not going to be happy. We'll end up taking a gun to our head because our creativity is completely being stifled now, and now we're doing this stupid job that we don't want to do. So
Yeah, the only thing that I think I differ from you on that is that, hello?
Yep.
Is that I firmly do believe in the kids. I know that it doesn't seem, it doesn't seem like they're really doing dope shit all the time. But like you were like, sometimes you were saying not all of it is cool. Well, unfortunately, what is cool, they decide, right? Not us. And so
True.
I actually, part of my internal despair, I think, comes from the fact that I'm truly amazed and I'm in awe of what some of the younger generation is doing, to the point where, the more I educate myself about it, the more I fully understand my own obsolescence, or whatever or like
I
my,
love it.
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
there is so much stuff. There's so much incredible young, like what I see young producers doing right now today is so fucking mind blowing that I'm just like, yo, like the future's in good hands. Like whatever part I had in the future being this way, that's great. If somebody could give me a little certificate, just a little bit of like, and that's not really fair because I do get my I've gotten my props and then some.
Oh man, you got some major props.
Yeah, man, I'm fucked, dude.
And not
Dude, Stolen Drums called me a legend yesterday, and I was like, "You're out of your fucking mind." This guy, this fucking dude, this dude is wiping the floor with me right now. Anyway, the point is that that makes me it makes me feel. I guess what I'm saying is like, there's a level of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not mad. I'm not like, yo, like I'm not like I need to reinvent myself. That's not what I'm feeling. I'm feeling more like everything's cool. My time doesn't have to be my time. I'm going to put out my record. I'm going to finish my record. I have a good record to put out. It's going to be good. It's going to be a little old school. It's going to be sad. But it'll be good.
I'm going to buy it.
You don't have to. No, I don't want you to buy it. But
I want to.
But it's all good, But it's all good. The thing is, I think the future's bright. You know what I'm saying? Like, the future is bright. So like, what do they used to do, the old guys? And you put me in a. What do? They cover you in honey and you wander out into the woods. Like, what do? They put you in a canoe and they set you off down the river. I mean, I don't know.
Or they take you in the back and
it doesn't sound that bad.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be covered in honey, I mean, I'm with it. I'm totally down with being covered in honey. Let me list off. Let me list off your achievements, because this is actually, it's so much here. I had to almost have 2 pages. But
yeah, well, don't bore anyone. Don't bore people with that.
Stop it! They're gonna love it. Um, you're a Goldie Awards finalist in 2017. You cut Beat Producer of the Year 2015. Sound Battle Royale Champion 2012. Beat Battle Champion 2011. Producer Engineer for two Juno nominated Decisives Vaudeville and Ghetto
Kiddo sucks. Yeah.
Socks. Yep, Treat of the Day. And I mean, that's just a minor thing. I really thoroughly enjoyed. Um, you and me both performed on the same stage in Arkansas during a Southern Hashtags tour,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was so fun. And then we got to do it again. I want to say a couple years later in Toronto when they. I don't know if you remember that Toronto show, but
Yeah.
they were. Remember they had the band that was dressed up like the Transformers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was a fun night too.
Yeah. That shit was crazy.
And it's fun, man. It's like we've got to do some cool stuff together, and I still feel like we still got some cool stuff left to do with each other for sure.
Oh, 100.
As soon as all of
100%.
this gets
100%. I'm not done. I'm just not mad
right,
either way.
I feel you. No, I understand. You know what? I
You
understand
know?
what that means. I totally do.
Yeah.
So
I just don't want to be. I'm not gonna be the grumpy old. I'm not gonna be the grumpy old man. The kids are fine. The kids are kicking ass.
yeah,
You know. But yeah, man, I feel that. I feel like we both do, man. And you know, you got 400 more beats to lose on the next computer anyway.
oh my God, right?
You gotta get on. You gotta make a ton more beats so that you can lose them all.
Do you have a team
And
of
then you
beat
can
makers,
really
or is
be
it just
free.
you?
You can really be free. What's that?
Do you have a team of beat makers, or is it just you?
No, it's just me. Yeah.
You
I've
might-
had some weird experiences though. Like I had people that were trying to buy my beats to put their names on them when I was coming up. That was weird. I had people. Yeah, I've had people try to like, you know, hey man, could you sell these beats for me or whatever? But I don't know. I mean, people don't hit me. People don't. Fresh Kils beats. People aren't hitting me up because they want, you know, just beats. They're hitting me up because they know me somehow, you know. So I can't have someone else making beats for me, you know.
No, I feel you, man.
You know, but
We definitely got to put our brains together and because I have some cool ideas, and I know that with your kind of mindset and how you are about making tracks, I think we could do some really cool collab stuff, especially with me doing live drum stuff for you, and you could just take it and do some
yeah, you
really
sent
weird.
me that one thing that I've been checking out, but it's like I just got to find the time and the. I mean, I know everybody's like, wow, everybody's got time right now.
But I know what you mean by that too.
I mean, it's not. Yeah, no, I haven't had time. That's the thing. It's been a dark couple weeks, to be honest. Obviously, but
Right.
it's been a real dark couple weeks here, man.
How's Toronto
But,
been, man? What's the temperature in Toronto? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we're pretty locked down, but like, I don't know. You know what? Here's the thing. I feel like my experience is a bit different because, first of all, I was on top of this story. Like, I was on top of the COVID-19 thing in late January.
Mhm.
Like, that's how long I've been following it. When like the doctor came out and got arrested, and he tried to tell people there was a pandemic, and they arrested him and made him sign an affidavit saying that he made it all up, so that they could just stop the panic. And then he dies 3 weeks later. I mean, the story is fucking wild. But
Yeah, something's
I was
going
on it from
on.
the beginning, and what's that?
I said something's going on behind the scenes. I'm sure.
I mean, I don't know how much of that I want to necessarily like entertain, but I understand where people come from. Like, but for me, what happened is I was on it early, and so I was trying to tell people that like they needed to chill, and I locked down like right away. I locked down the day that Rudy Gobert shut the NBA down.
Oh wow.
I shut down then, and then I've just been trying to take care of my folks, and I don't really want to get into it, to be quite honest, but I had family members that caught it and went to the hospital, and we thought they were going to die, and they didn't die, so that's great. But like, you know, like the fear of the fear of everything like really came home and I've been gripped in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's been a fucking nightmare, to be quite honest with you. But I've emerged now, which is nice. But yeah, so for me, I think it's been a little different because I live alone in my one bedroom. I can shut my door. I can go and get my groceries. I can shut my door. And my folks don't live far, so I can go and take care of them if I have to. So I've been really, really shut down. People that I engage with in Toronto, I think there's been general confusion, but I think Canada's handled it really well so far.
I think so too.
I think one of the things, like for me, I sort of reached a point where I sort of had to disengage because I was trying at first. Like I remember checking with my friends in LA, and LA was really confused at first. There were people that were being crazy about it, and there were people that were not paying attention to it at all.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to my friends in Portland, Oregon. They were like, people are still having barbecues, hanging out. Like no one's doing anything. Everybody thought it was a West Coast thing. Meanwhile, New York is like descending into chaos.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
1,000 people die in New York every day right now.
Dude, you should see Western New York, Buffalo area. It's just insane, bro. Like, I can't even explain to you, man. Like the disrespect, the selfishness, as well as the panic is just like very, very real. It's like apocalyptic for sure.
Yeah, it's really, really fucked up, and I think it's been confusing for everybody, and like. I think what really started to get me nuts and why I had to sort of disengage at a certain point, obviously just because of what was going on with me personally, but I was even dealing with really, really, really well-informed, educated, smart, level-headed people, caring, compassionate people not getting it, right? Like everyone right now is cheating, right? Everyone right now is cheating. I went for a walk with my folks today. Like we're all cracking at the seams, and we're all cheating, which is, one of us does it, it's fine. But when you're collectively fucking it, we're collectively fucking it all up every day.
Right.
Every day that you leave your house, you're part of a collective fuck up that's happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to sit on my balcony and lecture motherfuckers that are walking around. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was on the phone with my best friend, and her mom shows up in the middle of our conversation. I'm like, I got to go. Like, I can't talk to you. I'm not going to lecture you and your mom about this shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to lecture everybody. I can't do it. But, like, you're fucking up,
You're fucking up,
What do you want? You're fucking up. I gotta go. Like, that's kind of where I'm
at. I'm sorry. It's funny to hear you say it like that. You're fucking up. I gotta go.
I'm out, man. I mean, yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's true. That's why it's so funny though, because it's true.
Yeah, it's funny what happens when you reach the end of your rope. Like, you find out about a lot of things about yourself when you reach the end of your rope.
Yeah, that's true, man. I got to ask you one more thing before we wrap it up, and that is, and I feel like your first reaction to this is going to be the best reaction because we never got to talk about this. The Toronto Raptors winning the championship.
It's a dream. It's still a dream. It's still a dream I had one day. I woke up and I dreamt that we won, especially now, right? Right now, it feels like we're living in a nightmare. So, like, it was a nice dream that I had. That whole experience was, man. They made me believe. That's the thing and that's the corniest thing I've ever said because I've been a pessimist. I've been a Raptors fan. I went to games with my dad 25 years ago.
Right.
I was at those games. I saw Iverson's rookie season. I saw him play in Toronto. Like I was a Damon Stoudemire fan. Like I'm fucking ground zero.
Right.
I'm patient zero with the shit. And so I was just the pessimism is everything. And if you look at the path they took, this is what I'll say. The path that they took to win is just a series of unlikely events.
I know.
Like, we're not supposed to beat Philly. We lost game 1 to the Magic. I thought it was over. I was like, here we go again, right? We're gonna lose to the Magic in round 1. Unbelievable, right? Philly, when they blow us out, like game 3. This is the thing. I rewatched the whole thing. We're down 2-1 in Philly. We're down 2-1 in Philly. In the third quarter, we're down like 11 points. Like, that's over, right? Right? We're down 2-0 to Giannis. I'm done. I'm out. Right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, man.
At each moment, there's these moments where you're like, well, fuck it, we're fucked. And then all of a sudden we win every time. It's like not a Cinderella story, but it's definitely like, it really, really gave me faith in things that I didn't, I don't know how to. Yeah.
I enjoyed it, man, because being a longtime Buffalo Bills fan, and us going the whole 4 times to the Super Bowl but not actually getting it, and so any team that's the next closest, especially that we don't have a basketball team anymore, and we haven't had a basketball team in over 30, 40 years. I was always a big Knicks fan, and I was a big Toronto Raptors fan because I loved Vince Carter so much. I thought he was so innovative. So I became We Are the North. Like, I was with it. Like, yes, like let's do it. I was watching it at every place I could. I would never miss. I would have a little like I had the app in my phone to watch the NBA on my phone, and so I would be working part time at Guitar Center and finding ways to sneak and watch it on the internet. So I'm thoroughly proud of Toronto, man. I've like I said, I always loved Canada. It's like a second home to me. So when they won that championship, I feel like we all won it with them.
I wept like uncontrollably. Like, I had to be held. I was inconsolable. I was a mess when we won. It was just, and it was the greatest thing. It was the greatest thing. And also, I'm interested in how you see it, because I can imagine from the outside, this is a pretty likable team. Like, it was a pretty, like, I've had a lot of people tell me that they were fans of that team. They were like, that shit was amazing. Like, genuinely, like, from all over the States, from all over places, like, they're like, that team was really cool. And, like, there were so many stories, like Pascal's father dying 2 years
right
before he, I'm tearing up talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, his dad wasn't there to see him.
Right.
Become a champion. Like, that's
crazy.
Oh, that's gut wrenching, man. And he's only been playing ball for 8 years.
Wow.
Like, his story is out of control. Masai Ujiri.
Yep.
Kawhi.
Hell, like when I knew Kawhi was coming over,
the Phoenix, rising of the Phoenix, my friend.
It was like Kawhi was like that. I don't know if you're a big fan of anime, but Kawhi was
Not
like
so
all of a sudden. Okay, I'm a nerd. I'm sorry. Okay.
Super Saiyan, is that where we're going?
Yeah, he went Super Saiyan, man. He let that hair down, bro.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, Kawhi is what the heck? What got in him? Like, he was already great, but after he told, San Antonio, listen, I ain't fucking with y'all right now, cause y'all ain't doing me right. And then he left the way he left, and it says, you know what? I'm taking my talents over the border to Toronto. It was like, yes, it did. I
mean, they sent him packing. That's the thing.
Right.
I went back and watched. I've gone so deep down this rabbit hole, you wouldn't believe it. I went back and watched, like, YouTube stuff from before the trade, and dude, the disrespect that they put Kawhi through is super fucked up. Like, it's fucked up what they did to him. Like Tony Parker coming out and saying that his injury was 10 times worse and he was back playing already.
That's crazy.
Like, yo, man, there was some serious disrespect going on,
Yeah, it was.
and like you can imagine. And here's what's funny is if you think about it too, because I thought he was gonna stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that I didn't understand, that it took me to like really get into it, was like this man was on his way to beating. That's the other thing. You want to say, like, you know how Vince Carter misses the shot against Philly in the second round in Game 7 18 years ago, and then Kawhi hits it, the exact same shot? Like, that's fucked up. But think about this. Kawhi goes down, busts his quad playing what team? They were 20 up.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
On the Golden State Warriors, right?
Yeah.
They're 20 up on the Golden State Warriors. Zaza is a fucking dirty ass bitch player, right? Undercuts him.
Right.
He's a dirty player.
He is.
He's fucking dirty. There's like 8 or 9 plays that he's involved in that are super fucked up. He nearly fucking tears Westbrook's ACL, and in this other play that's just egregious. But anyway, like, so yeah, Kawhi goes out. From that moment on, he just wants to go home. Like, from that moment on, right? He's like, how do I get home?
Right.
Because these motherfuckers disowned him. They disown him.
Yeah.
And then they disrespect him in the public, and he's not the kind of guy to talk. That's why. And then there was all this disrespect too about his uncle taking over. Well, his uncle took over. Yeah, okay, his uncle's a money grubber. Everybody has a money grubbing uncle or aunt. Whatever, that's life. But they didn't trust the agent. They didn't trust the doctors. They were getting fucked around.
Yeah, that's true.
And it basically was a journey for Kawhi to go home. You know what I mean? Like, why I ever thought he might stay is a misunderstanding of who Kawhi is. Because Kawhi was trying to go home since he'd been trying to go home for like 2 years at that point.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
Like, fuck all this shit. If you're gonna badmouth me and underpay me and fucking talk all this shit and turn my teammates against me, what's important to me? What's important to Kawhi? His home and his family and his, you know what I mean? Like, the money's not important. Loyalty and family and friendship are what's important, you know? And being the best in the world. Anyway.
Absolutely. And he will.
And
he'll be known for that.
Yeah, and also, too, because I know a lot of Raptors fans, this is the reason why I'm saying it, because I know a lot of Raptors fans were like, fuck him, he left, you know? But I think you have to understand a little bit more about the situation, number one. Number two, what Raptors fan wouldn't enjoy Kawhi going to LA to fuck over LeBron James? Like, what is more Raptors fandom than that? Have you seen those Kawhi commercials where he's like driving a Cadillac?
Yeah.
And he's got the crown on the gold chain, on the keychain?
Yeah, man.
Yo, man. Do you want to see LeBron's legacy fucked up? I do. I fucking do. That guy's made enough money. He fucking sold out and went to LA to make Space Jam 2. Fuck that dude. I'm done.
That's great.
That's my Kawhi shit right
there. I love it. You gotta do it in Kawhi's laugh too. You know, I love his laugh.
Oh man, I love everything. I love everything about him, man. He's a gunslinger, man.
Yeah, I want to hang out with him.
Much?
I definitely want to hang out with Kawhi.
He's a Terminator. He's a fucking oh man. He doesn't say much. It's just business, man.
I will break you.
You just love it.
Listen, man.
He's the best thing to happen to me in a long time, man. It was a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me.
This is what I wanted. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to just have a conversation, loosely follow a little guide of questions, but I just wanted to have a good, because you and me have talked like this before without any recordings, you know? So I'm just glad that we get to do it. So, where can everybody find your music, reach out to you, your social media? Go ahead and give them a hit of everything.
Everything is at Fresh Kils, FRESHKILS. Instagram, Twitter, Searching YouTube, Facebook. It's all Fresh Kils. Bandcamp, same way. Yeah. Find me, just check it out, do whatever, buy some shit, don't buy some shit.
And what's the name of that album with you and Proof Rock? Because that's my dude right there, man.
Proof Rock. Oh man. Well, we didn't do an album. We did a couple of joints, but it was for someone else's record. So I'm trying to think now.
Oh, okay.
I produced something when he's on, but I don't even remember what it. That he's so dope though. That dude.
He's really dope. Yeah.
He was on that record that I mixed for Buck and Nice out of Ottawa. Those two are fucking beasts. Proof Rock. Oh man, I'm gonna blank. This is bad.
That's okay.
Bad. No,
that's okay. I could always put it in the description. You've done so much good work. You've done so much good work, and it's all available on your platforms. So listen, and for those producers, or not even producers, for those rappers out there that are looking for tracks, I'm trying to tell you, Fresh Kils got those tracks. Okay, he's got those tracks for your ass. So don't sleep. Listen, put some more bread in that man's pocket because he deserves every penny of it. And I appreciate you, man, coming on the show. We'll be in touch soon, bro.
Yeah, man. Let's do it again soon, man. Much love.
Absolutely, man. Love you, bro.
Peace.
Well, everyone, that is a wrap. Listen, I thoroughly enjoy my discussion and interview today with Fresh Kils. Man, I just have so many good memories about me and Fresh Kils on the Southern Hashtag Tour. I mean, there were so many funny moments. And besides that, he's just a good person. He's a good dude, and I thoroughly appreciate him as a friend, and I'm glad that he was able to come on today and us have a great conversation about, just the music industry and about other things. It was really, really refreshing. Once again, we are living in tough times. I don't want you to concentrate on that. I really want you to concentrate on, doing something or finding something that will keep you busy, keep your mind occupied. I still practice yoga, usually 5 or 10 minutes in the morning and 5 or 10 minutes in the evening. And just that deep breathing and playing some tunes or something that you like, turn off the TV for a while. Don't worry about that. It'll all work itself out. We are not doomed. We're not having a apocalyptic moment. We are fine. We are more fine than you think, and we will recover. Once again, if you know anybody that is going through hard times, don't leave them out there. Don't just Facebook them. Don't just Instagram them. Make sure you check on your people. Check on your people. Check on your family. Check on friends. Go through that phone and take a look at some people you haven't called in a while. Give them a call. This is the time to do it. And if you are going through anything and struggling, if you are thinking about suicide, I encourage you not to. I've been there. I know what that feels like. So please feel free to reach out to me and leave me a message at any time. I'll always respond. I'm always looking to talk, and I have no problem with talking with you. And otherwise, if you need to know, the National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. Be kind to one another, and you have a great day. God bless. Thanks for listening, guys. Before I go, please remember to hit that like button and that subscribe button. Please, appreciate you. I do giveaways and things of that nature. Also, please follow me on Instagram at David Jonathan Drums. If you are interested in submitting some music to be featured, please go ahead and email that to teaspoon407@gmail.com. Once again, that's teaspoon407@gmail.com. If you are also interested in being a paid sponsor, please submit to that email address as well. Peace.